Welcome, everyone. I'm Amy Seeley, president of Seeley Test Pros and Leap, helping students to succeed in all kinds of tests from 8th grade to grad school throughout Ohio.
And I'm Mike Bergen, president of Chariot Learning, helping students with the test school and life based out of Rochester, New York.
Between the three of us today, we have over 67 years of experience at the highest levels of the test preparation and supplemental education industries.
We both love to talk and learn about the latest issues in education, testing, and admissions. So let's get down to tests and the rest. The fascinating test prep professional we want to profile today is Allen Tsao. We're so happy to be speaking with you today, Allen. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on here.
So, Allen, can you tell us a little bit about where you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I live in a city in Washington called Bothell, Washington. It's near Seattle, basically. So I always tell people Seattle, but technically it's a suburb of it. I've lived here for a number of years, and I focus a lot on tutoring primarily AP Physics and a bit of AP Calculus.
I have to admit, I was ignorant about Bothell. I had no idea what Bothell was as your practice, Bothell STEM Coach. And I was like, what? I mean, I've been to Seattle a couple of times, but I never heard of it. So I made it up as something totally different. Bot hell. Not quite the same.
We're not there yet. Die.
Yeah.
It's like my Facebook thread.
Yeah, I should pronounce it that way. It's easier to spell that way.
So how did you get your start in test prep? And what did you do before you started prep?
Yeah, I have probably a little bit of an interesting story. So I actually study as an electrical engineer. I did a bachelor's and a master's, and I picked up tutoring actually in college. That was when I volunteered. I was just helping. There was a student organization that's helping with tutoring and just tutoring other engineering students. And I really enjoyed it, but I actually worked as an engineer for 11 years. I still volunteered tutoring for various organizations out there because I liked doing it. And it wasn't until several years ago that I was like, well, I wonder what it would be like to be paid to do this. Like, would I like I was like, well, okay, it's one thing that I tutor just kids I like every now and then volunteer, but what would it like to be paid and to do it as a job? Would I get sick of it after a while? And so then I just started, I went through a few like online programs to just find students just to see if I liked it. And then I started my own business, and it started locally, hence the name of the business, when I would tutor in person around. But then and I used to do all kinds of academic one-on-one tutoring. And then it grew from there, actually.
So what kind of training sort of you surrounded yourself with in your time doing tutoring?
Yeah, so when I started out, it was just I was always good at problem solving. I would say most people that I work with, like they were just like, oh, the way you think about problems. When I was in middle school, I did math competitions and things like that.
That's excellent preparation for that. Yeah.
Yeah, going through engineering, it's all problem solving, right? It's problem sets constantly. And so I kind of had a knack for it. And I just sort of broke it down to a lot of people in a way that they enjoyed. I would say more of the training I've done since then has been around marketing and, running a business, hiring, scaling a little bit, because I do more group classes now. I don't do any one-on-one, very, very little one-on-one teaching now. So understanding how to do that, manage different techniques to help with having multiple students at once was also something that I got training on.
It's funny that you're saying that. It sounds like the education and the actual work of the business is easy. It's the business part that we always say, right, is the part that very often for many of us is not the thing that we knew naturally. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Convincing people to buy or sell, be a salesperson-ish, so to speak, right? To convince, why is this valuable? Why is it worth this much? That kind of thing. And I never saw myself as someone who wanted to hire people, be a manager or run people. That's actually kind of why I left some of my engineering jobs, is they wanted to promote me up to managing people. And I was like, I don't really want to do this. Oh, yeah. So I actually never envisioned myself doing that portion, but that is not a natural part. I think if you get into the education business, you love the teaching portion, and that's what you gravitate towards first.
Yeah, absolutely. We speak to so many educators or let's say educational entrepreneurs who came in from the education side. And every once in a while, we find somebody who came in from the business side, and they seem to have so many advantages in terms of knowing marketing, sales, operations, business, finance, things like that. But then, of course, they have to learn domain knowledge. And so we land in the middle. And, it seems like your evolution as an educator, you've managed to cross a divide that many subject tutors cannot. And that's, you started as an individual tutor, and then you said that now you're mostly doing group. How did your practice evolve into doing group instruction in an area where usually it's one-to-one?
Yeah, that's a great question. It evolved from, I have kids, 3 kids now. They're all in elementary school. And it came about more out of necessity because I was tutoring, and as individual tutors, I would tutoring kids in the evenings, weekends, and stuff like that. But as the kids were getting older, it was like, well, I don't know. I don't want this. Oh, hey, they're coming home and I'm off to work
and you're leaving
and I'm doing nothing else during the day, right? Like that's a really, really big challenge. And so I looked for other tutors who were doing that. There were some training programs that I went to, and they promoted kind of group teaching models. And I went through that. And I think the biggest thing about probably the transition, the hardest part, is when you're an individual tutor and you can, and I had a pretty long strength, I could tutor from algebra 2 all the way up, is that when you're taking on so many different subjects, so many different people, you can't consolidate into a group because like I got a geometry student, I got algebra student, I got a physics student, right? Obviously they're not going to be in the same class with me. And so I had experimented with a lot of different models of like, well, what if we don't have lessons? You just send me questions and I'll just send you notes on how to do the problem. So I tried a lot of variety of things to try to make it work. But what it ended up coming down to was like I had to focus on a specific niche and just market that. So my YouTube channel switched gears to like focusing on just that stuff. A lot of my Instagram, social media, all the messaging was geared around primarily AP Physics. That's the main thing I market, AP Physics 1 specifically.
Right.
And once I started getting more students, you have a certain number, you got 5 or 6 and you consolidate them into a group. Then that's when I knew I was like, oh, and then that grows from there because you get referrals from that point. But like you get that critical mass where it's like, oh, okay, now I can just grow the groups. And where I'm at, like AP Physics 1 this year was like 110 students, I think.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
And what's the model like? When you're bringing them in, do you have a certain point for each cohort where they come in at the same level, or how do you structure that? And if it's going to get us too much into the weeds, then don't. But I'm really fascinated by your model.
Yeah, no, it's great. So what I try to do is have them start in the summer. So I'm promoting for the summer to start at around the same time because I want students to learn about pacing because I think it's hard to catch up. I mean, a lot of students come, of course, even now I'm getting students be like, oh, AP exams like in 3 weeks. Can you help me out? And I'm like, look, there's just like only so much I'm realistically going to be able to do with you in 3 weeks. So I try to have them come in. If they come in later, so when you have a larger group size like this, there's a few things that kind of happen. One, there are periodic review sessions that occur throughout the week. So there's like 11 classes that are going on every week, and students can actually come to any of them. And some of them are review on older materials. So I'm saying like, oh, if you were really weak in Unit 1 and you're coming in, say, October.
So there's almost like a recycling the students can do, like going back to things, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, they got to spiral it, right? So it's a little bit like, oh, we got to, some people, they come to the unit review sessions because there's just like, man, we're on Unit 4. Unit 1 was a long time ago. I just don't really remember that. I would like to catch up on that. And some students, if they come in later, then they join those as well.
That sounds like a great model for AP prep, like to do, if you're doing group and you're doing throughout the year, that spiraling would be really beneficial for students.
Yeah, I think my students really like that interaction. They come in, they work on problems, and we have whiteboards and we can view their work and stuff like that and give them feedback. So yeah, that cycling, I think throughout the year, because that also addresses the problem where like some teachers are faster, some teachers are slower. So there are different points at mode in their curriculum. So then they might need to revisit some of those older topics, or because they're like, oh, you guys are ahead of where we are in our class, but like, I need to, prep for a test next week.
So, what are some of your favorite aspects of working with students in preparation for tests like AP Physics?
Yeah, you get to see their entire journey over the whole year, especially from when they join and when they do that. I know you guys on test prep, like sometimes, I don't know, SAT, ACT can be like kind of a short window. You do see growth, but when I get to work with students over the year, I really, really do enjoy like seeing their growth, seeing where they started and where they ended. And we do a lot of tracking with groups. We got to track a lot of data, them submitting homeworks, what their work is like, how their practice tests are going. You guys probably do a very similar thing too. But at the scale that we're at, we have a lot of data we have to collect. That way we can make sure that anyone who's behind, they know what they need to work on.
I think it's wonderful that you've kind of found the sweet spot between, as you say, SAT, ACT prep and other entrance exams. Prep is very often 2 to 3 months. It can be longer, but that's not always the case. Whereas subject tutoring can last a year or more. You've got the sweet spot where you have the certainty, the clarity of a test to teach to, and yet you get to work with students for a long period of time.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I love that aspect of it, is that we all have the same goal. We're all on the same journey together, but it's a much longer journey. It's a more, I want them to be a paced journey, not like cram, like teach them,
Sure.
Look, a little each week is enough to get through. And that way, like when they go to college, yeah, it's faster, but like, don't try to cram right before the final exam or anything like that.
Oh, as if we're not hearing from people today about AP prep. And
Right.
today is the middle towards the end of April.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, look, it's like, I'll be like, look, I can offer you something, but like, look, at this point, it's like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know where your kid is at. I don't know what they've been struggling with. Like they say like, well, they learned it. I'm like, well, I mean, they covered it.
Mhm.
Where are they at? I have no idea. And I don't know if anyone can fix anything at this point, right? If there's big problems.
So on that note of sometimes unreasonable expectations, what are some aspects of test prep that you might not love or be frustrated with?
I think the pressure on students is probably the biggest thing that I dislike about most of the systems. APs can be very stressful. I do my best, but any given Sunday or any given day, like it can be like you just have a bad day. And with AP, there's no recourse. You can wait till next year to take it again, right? I mean, college is like that too, right? You get a final, you get a shot at it. If it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. But I think there's something these days about the high stakes of like getting into colleges that's real. I really feel for kids. There's days where I wish it's like, I would just love to teach something that it's like, you're not getting a grade from me. I'm just teaching it you because this I think will be important for you in the future and you will have a better handle of this. We'll still do work, we'll still do practice, we'll still do tests, but like there's no stakes to it. So that's probably the most difficult part to see students, especially they come back in July and they say like, I didn't do nearly as well as I wanted. And they were really, even though they worked really hard all year.
Well, and especially with APs, right? Because generally speaking, most kids by now are taking even just more than one AP, right? So it's the recognition of you might be working with them with AP Physics, but they might be taking 2 or 3 other APs where it's like, that's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Allen, so tell us, what is something most of your colleagues would be surprised to learn about you?
That is a good question. Business side, I would say my business runs primarily on advertising, like paid advertising through Facebook.
Oh, wow.
That is how, yeah, I get some referrals. I get some word of mouth, but the entire business runs off of advertising, actually. So almost everyone I get of those 110 students, they had never heard of me prior to signing up. They had just saw some ads, and I navigated to them, and that was that's a
So how
lot
did
to
you,
set up.
so by ads, is this Google or Facebook, or where are you seeing the most?
Facebook ads is what I do. I'm probably going to start doing YouTube ads starting in the summer, but it's primarily Facebook ads right now.
You gonna
Fascinating. Is there a non-business side? Surprise.
Let's see. That's a good question as well. I would say I love karaoke. That's probably. I want to make
I'm
it
not
out.
that surprised. You have a good voice.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Then Alan's got to come to the next NTPA conference because
That's
we've
right.
incorporated karaoke into all NTPA events now.
Oh, awesome. I don't do the karaoke bars. Like in Asians, we got the private rooms
Yeah.
where you're just singing, and it's a random video in the background that has nothing to do with the song, but it's just some B-roll of whatever free videos they're allowed to use. That's
Amy
the
and I
best
have found ourselves in rooms like that with our
Yes,
colleagues.
that is how. Yes, it's the private room with the colleagues in a safe space, right? With people who are all about learning and progress. Then I can karaoke.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, Alan, we could talk about you all day. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
And thank you so much for having me here.
If listeners would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Email's the best, and that's Allen at BothellSTEMCoach.com. That's Allen, Allen, and then 3 words, Bothell STEM Coach. Bothell is spelled Bothlell, then STEM, STEM, and then Coach, COACH.com.
Awesome. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did. Be sure to join us for another fascinating topic and guest on the next Tests and the Rest.
Did you enjoy this episode as much as we did? Find expanded links and more for this and all of our episodes at our show page at testsandtherest.com. While you're there, be sure to explore everything the larger TestBright site has to offer, including real, expert, unbiased answers to the toughest admissions testing questions. Of course, we'd love for you to rate, review, and subscribe to Tests and the Rest on your favorite podcast platform. If there's a topic or guest you'd like us to feature, just let us know and spread the word.